Welcome YouTube and Facebook world. This is Dan Larson with Dan Larson Realty. Just going to explain what it's like to go on showings and what real estate is like post or in the yellow phase of lockdown for Pennsylvania. So there are a lot of criteria that us real estate agents have to oblige by. And I'm just going to explain that in order for buyers and sellers to feel comfortable. If you're thinking about buying or thinking about selling, to know, how do I have the largest amount of safety possible? Because if you don't feel safe and you're trying to go about these things, you have to reevaluate it, because your safety is the #1 priority. So in order for some of the guidelines that we have to follow is, for any showings, masks have to be worn by every party that's included. For showings, there needs to be proper documentation beforehand. So there needs to be 2 forms in particular, stating that you're aware of the situation of a coronavirus. And 2, that's the summary of it. You can read it more in detail. It's pretty bland. And the second one is stating that you haven't had any symptoms for the last 72 hours. So that way, if you have had symptoms, there's an area where you can explain your symptoms or the rationale for it. And then it has to be approved by the seller. So it gets sent from the buyer's agent to the listing agent, and the listing agent puts it to the seller. The seller has to approve it. Seller has the right to say, since you have signs of or symptoms of coronavirus, that they can deny your showing. So that's just to ensure the safety of the seller, because it is their home, and especially if they're living there, that is, a major criteria in order to keep everyone safe. And if you have coronavirus, you're aware of it, you go to a showing and you happen to spread it to possibly another buyer afterwards, that's a worst case scenario for real estate. And that's what they're really trying to go and eliminate that risk. And another way is, everyone has to wear a mask in the showing. There's a certain amount of people that are allowed. So there's only 2 buyers that are allowed into the property. So unfortunately, no kids are able to come in. So if it's a family with kids, you have to, one of the parents may have to stay in the car with the kids, and then they flip-flop. So it's 2 buyers and a real estate agent. So it can be more. You have to get the seller approval ahead of time. Like if it's 4 buyers and they're all quarantined together, that could be okay, but it has to be approved by the seller and the listing agent. So those are just things to keep in mind when you're going on showings right now, or if you're thinking about going on showings and looking at possible houses to buy. These are all criteria to keep all parties safe. Now, after you request to do a showing, one of the guidelines is you have to wait. So you time block how long it's going to be. So 15, 30 an hour. The seller kind of puts a minimum and maximum on that. So after the showing is over, there's a 30-minute time block that no one can go and do the showing, and no one can go into a showing while you're going into it. That's not the norm. It used to be you could book a showing, but so could someone else, and you could all be there. So to keep safety at its highest level, only one family or group is able to come in at one time. Now, in order to keep the seller safe, these are all the criterias, and then there's certain things. So if agents are trying to meet, there's only a certain amount of people that they can allow. So if they're looking to take photos of the property, and if they're looking to stage the property, which is making your home beautiful for a buyer to look at it and really get a good evaluation of your house and what it's like to have nice settings and backgrounds. So I always recommend it to my sellers, but that's another conversation for another day. They can make a lot of these criteria up. So for example, showings, you have a certain amount of notice. So for example, you could have that the seller only needs an hour notice before someone can book an appointment. Sometimes it's 24 hours, sometimes it's 48 hours. So it's all, the seller gets to set those guidelines, set those guidelines, and they are able to set a certain time that they're able to do showings. So, you know, if they're living at the house and, you know, it's a small family, it's hard to be able to, you know, get up and leave at any time. So you're able to set certain time frames that you'd be willing to sacrifice your time and have someone look at your property. So all this is used in order to, 1, obey by the governor's rules, 2, to keep all parties safe, and 3 is to keep everyone comfortable while going through this real estate transaction in an unfamiliar time of the yellow phase of a lockdown from COVID-19. So I know that was a lot. If you have any questions, feel free to message me on any social media platform. And I'd love to help and see how I can help you guys. All right, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.